Hi, this is Simon from the Simon Westfall-Kwong Real Estate about Keller Williams. How are you doing this afternoon? Today we have Peter Uzzolino from Acres Title. He's the president of the company. He is going to talk about the importance of doing title search for a homeowner before you sell your home and also before you submit an offer. Peter, how are you doing today?
Very good, Simon. How are you today?
Great. So you want to start with maybe talk about what is important, what seller needs to do a search before they put the homes on the market, and then we can then cover buyers why they need to do a title search before they have clearance, before they close.
Absolutely. So good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone's staying healthy and safe. If you're a seller of a piece of property and you're thinking about listing with Simon or one of people on his team, you should contact them and ask them to run a title search on a piece of property, as well as a flood search. And if you're near near salt water, you should order a tideland search as well. The title search will tell a seller and the agent who owns the property, how many liens are on the property. And you want to make sure the property is not in a flood zone. And if it is in a flood zone, there are ways maybe that you can take it out of a flood zone if the flood area is a little questionable. And for tidelands, for saltwater areas, you want to make sure the state of New Jersey does not have a claim on that piece of property. And if it does, you're looking at a 2-year period to clear something like that up with the state of New Jersey. So that's for a seller. For a buyer, they can use the same information for negotiating purchase prices to see how many liens are on the property. If you're going to be leasing a piece of property, you should also do a title search because you want to make sure that the landlord you're leasing from is not in foreclosure. Very, very important. Just to give you a little story about what happened to a friend of mine in Hoboken. The person rented the property. He paid the first 6 months in cash to the landlord. By the 3rd month, he came home and he had a little piece of paper attached to the door that this unit was in foreclosure. The person was very upset with the realtor. So you want to make sure you do your due diligence before you lease, list, or purchase a piece of property. And the issue for an agent is to do this search also because you want to make sure that before you take this listing, the person who's signing this listing is the right person. Because this happens quite often where the wrong person is signing the listing agreement. There could be a power of attorney, there could be a matrimonial issue going on, and you want to be absolutely positive who owns the property and how many liens are on the property. Because there's many type of liens that can be filed against a piece of property. Your typical one would be a mortgage. Most people have 1 or 2 mortgages, a regular mortgage or a home equity loan. The exotic liens that I call are more like judgments where you owe someone money, you don't pay them, they have judgments against the property. Federal tax liens, state of New Jersey, Division of Tax Liens. These are all things you want to find out way ahead of time. You want to be proactive so that when you come to the closing, there's no escrows, there's no delays on the property for your closing. It's very important. Everyone who buys a piece of property should definitely buy an owner's policy for themselves, as well as the loan policy for the lender, which is mandatory. You have to buy that for the lender. And a big problem today is a lot of lenders are telling buyers they don't need. I'm sorry, Simon?
No, that's okay. Someone just joined in and I just muted them. That's okay. Continue.
Okay, no problem. A lot of the lenders are telling buyers, you can save money, you don't need a survey. And that's really not good advice to give to a buyer. You should buy your owner's policy and you should buy a brand new survey on the property. because without a survey, you're not sure of where your property corners are, if there's any encroachments on the property, if there's any gaps or gores on the property. It's very important that you get that. And the reason why the lenders say this is because we automatically insure them with or without a survey. There's a specific endorsement we can give to a lender that we can't give to a buyer if they're buying a one-family home. Now, it changes a little bit if you're buying a condominium. If you buy a condominium, you don't really need a survey for that. We can give you an endorsement for a condominium, but for a house, you must have a survey. So really, I can't emphasize enough how important it is to buy a survey. I'll tell you a story about a deal we closed about 4 years ago in Westfield. Gentleman paid $1.5 million for a one-family house in Westfield. He decided he didn't want to get a survey. So we took exception on the policy for the survey. I get a call from an attorney who's representing him in a lawsuit. He's having a fight with his neighbor next door over a flower bed that is encroaching on his property. You can't make this stuff up. So he says to me, "How are you going to protect me?" I said, "I can't protect you because you didn't buy a survey." Was not a happy man. And the problem was he himself is a lawyer. And, he tried to save himself some money by not getting a survey. But now he's in the middle of a lawsuit with his next door neighbor over flowers in a flower bed. So it's very important for all your buyers to buy owner's insurance as well as a survey on a piece of property. Because with title searches, so many different things could happen. You could have a judgment search. Say you have a judgment search against a common name, like maybe Jose Rodriguez or John Smith, where you're going to have numerous judgments against these people because it's a common name. Unfortunately, sometimes people are not so truthful and they may lie on the affidavit of title. If you don't buy an owner's policy and they were not so truthful on the affidavit of title that says that the judgments are not against them and there's a judgment against them, we then defend that lawsuit. But if you decide not to buy an owner's insurance, you're on your own. So these are all the things that protect you when you buy a title insurance policy. We had a deal. Simon, can I talk to them about your deal with the Tidelands issue?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to give them a little bit of background first?
You can go ahead. I mean, I can tell you, you go and then I can fill in. How's that?
Okay, sounds good. So Simon was purchasing a property in the Jersey Shore. And the property was claimed by the state of New Jersey. I don't remember. It was like 10% or something like that. I think it was
30%.
30%. So you knew better than I did.
Yeah.
30%. When the people he was buying from bought the house, their attorney didn't let them do anything about that. So they bought it subject to this claim with the state of New Jersey. So you have to be very careful because this could be a very expensive claim because they will take 30% of the claimed area and charge you either a one-time fee for a riparian grant, which deeds the property to you, or they're going to give you a license where you're going to have to pay every year an annual fee to the state of New Jersey in order for you to use the lands that are in the water. The seller did not want to put any escrow up. That's correct, right? Right, Simon?
Correct, yes. Mm-hmm.
He didn't want it. So Simon decided he doesn't want to be burdened with this, which is a very smart thing to do, not to be burdened with it. And he walked away from that deal. And I'm sure you bought something else, right, Simon?
We did buy something else, but also just to let people know that we only find that out 5 days before we were due to close. So that's why it's really important to do title search much more earlier. And I know, Peter, let's talk about that. A lot of people wait to do the title search much later until like after attorney review, after they do home inspection. Right. Do you think it's a good idea to do them like actually before you even purchase the house or actually just in the process of while you're in attorney review? So you can find out all the stuff? out
Right.
prior?
My feeling on that is to be proactive. As soon as that contract is signed, they should be ordering their title search. Not the survey yet, but the title search. They should order the title search, see what they're going to find with the title. Because if there's a lot of liens on the property, it's going to delay the closing. So you want to know all this stuff up front. So either you get it before you sign a contract, or as you sign the contract, have your attorney order the searches immediately. A lot of attorneys like to wait till you have a mortgage commitment. It's not a good thing, because then everything has to be in a rush. And then God forbid you find something that's going to hold up a closing. You're going to have to get your mortgage commitment extended. Sometimes that costs you money to do that. So it's always best to be proactive. If you're really interested in a piece of property, just call Simon, one of his agents. Go contact me, and we'll do all this work for you. That way you have it all up front and you know what you're dealing with. Any questions?
Peter, as you know, as people today right now, are delaying paying their mortgages because of COVID, and so
Sure.
over a year now. So let's say they're selling the house, that's gonna come up. And how easy is that gonna get that clear up before they can close on the property?
So what we do, Simon, is when we write for our payoff letters on the mortgages, we ask them to include if the mortgage was in forbearance. And if it's in forbearance, when we get that written payoff letter, it'll say that payments have not been made since April of 2020. So then we know we got to look for all that interest and principal payment that's got to be added to the bottom of that payoff letter. That's a great question, Simon, because that's one of the largest claims that are happening against title insurance companies, because a lot of them were forgetting to ask if the property was in forbearance. Did the seller have an agreement with their lender to postpone their payments? You got to find out that information, or else you're really going to get hurt. Because with a lot of the banks, the payoff department doesn't speak to the forbearance department, and they don't know people are in forbearance. So they don't know about all the additional interest and principal that has to be paid. So that's why you got to ask that question. And we do that normally. We make them put it in their affidavit of title that the seller is not in forbearance with their lender. So we know for sure that we're not going to have a short payoff, because it's the last thing we want is a short payoff.
And then how is that different than, let's say there's a bankruptcy, foreclosure? Is it timing wise, does it take us much time to get that all clear out?
Oh yeah, if it's foreclosure, if you're buying from a bank, the foreclosure was done already. And hopefully it was all done in proper form. We check all that out with the title search and with the chancery proceedings. We make sure all the proper people were noticed. Bankruptcy could be a little bit more difficult, because with bankruptcy, most of the time you need to go into bankruptcy court and you need to get a court order to sell the property either free and clear of all liens, or sell the property paying off specific liens. I have one this morning that's closing today. It was a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, and at the last minute, the sales attorney calls and says, "Oh, there's an $8,800 credit going to the buyer." They never told the trustee in bankruptcy. It was for a repair. They should have sent the addendum to the bankruptcy trustee. So then I said, okay, I know the bankruptcy trustee. Let me get on the phone. I called the bankruptcy trustee. Thank God he was in. I talked to him. He said, it's for a repair. Can they prove it's for a repair? I said, yeah, we have stuff shown what had to be done in the inspection. Send that to me. I send it to him, calls me back. You're good to close. But you got to ask the question, because when you're dealing with bankruptcy, everything has to be sold pursuant to the bankruptcy order. And sometimes that takes a little bit of time before you get it, because that could really hold you up. So you want to know up front if your people that are selling this property are in bankruptcy. So that's an important question to ask. One other thing I want to...
What about a short sale that's like 2 or 3 mortgages? Was that prolong the closing process too?
Without a doubt, because now you're dealing with a negotiator who's negotiating the short sale. And what happens a lot of times with short sales, they don't do a title search. They just rely on the seller telling them, yeah, I have a first and a second mortgage. Then we do the title search, and they've already submitted a preliminary CD to the short sale lender. Then when we do the title search, we find there's 3 mortgages, there's federal tax liens, and there's judgments. So they have to start the process all over again to include all these liens on the CD so that everyone has noticed these liens have to be paid. So it's a big problem if you do not do it. If you have any of your people doing short sales, always remember, do your title search first, because you can't do a preliminary CD without a title search.
Peter, let's go back to the seller for a second. I just recently had a situation that, my seller owned the property for a long time, and they refinanced the property, and then they pay off the property that they thought they paid off, and then and then when they come to sell the house, after 20 years later, and when the buyer did title search, there's
looking out the window.
Statement was not there. So how would they clear that up and to make sure that we can get to a closing table?
So that happens quite often, Simon, where there's a prior mortgage on the property that's never been removed of record. There's 2 things you could do. The first thing I always do, I look at the mortgage and I look for a due date. If you're 6 years past the due date of that mortgage, I could automatically omit that mortgage from the binder. A lot of other title companies do not know that.
They don't, because I got to delay my closing for that purpose.
Yeah,
so
it doesn't have to be. Now, if you're within the time period and it hasn't expired, I have my own company that we go out and we get these mortgages canceled. It costs about $1,500 to do it. If I hired an attorney, it would probably cost you $5,500 to do it. So we have a company, they do it for us for $1,500. We close, we hold no escrow, so it doesn't hold up the closing, and we move forward. It's a big problem in the title insurance business today, is old mortgages that don't come off the record. And the reason for that is this. Way back when I first started, when you paid off your mortgage, you most likely were paying it off to a savings and loan bank. You paid off, and what they would do is they would sign it saying it's canceled the record, and then they mail it back to you. But they never tell you that you've got to take it to the county to file so it comes removed off the record. And that's why all these old mortgages are sitting out there. So,
Peter, can you repeat about the 6 years again? What you're looking
it's 6
at?
years. So if a mortgage, say they took out a mortgage and the mortgage expired in 2000, so now we're in 2021, I could omit that mortgage because we're 6 years due date.
Okay.
You follow me?
Yep.
But if the mortgage doesn't, say the mortgage expires in 2024, it's still a good mortgage. I have to go into court to get it removed of record. That's what we do, if we have proof that the mortgage was paid.
Well, we wish that buyer was working with you as the title company.
Yes, we do.
Let me
We had a
tell you,
lot of
Dane,
fun.
that got a little ugly, and it took us a long time
I'm
to
sure it
close.
did. I'm sure it did. The problem is today, there's a lot of new title agents and they don't understand all the statutes that are out there that can protect the buyer and the seller and not hold up a closing. We can do all that here. That's not an issue for us. The one mortgage you have to be very careful with, though, is the home equity mortgage. One of the most dangerous mortgages for a title insurer, because the seller has a checkbook. So when we go to pay that mortgage off, not only do we need a payoff letter, we need a letter that says the account is now frozen and closed so that that seller can't leave the closing and write a check. Very dangerous. The banks hate to give us freeze letters because they don't want to be on the hook if the borrower writes an additional check. So we have to be very, very careful with home equity loans. Home equity loans, line of credits, anything that the seller has a checkbook with, you have to be very, very careful with. Because a lot of people who get home equity loans don't even know it's a mortgage. They think it's just an open checkbook, unfortunately. Did you have a question, Simon?
Yeah, what about now that because of COVID, like small business owner have either the PPP or the small business loan from the government. Does those show up as when you do a title search or not?
PPP
really?
loans do not show up.
Does that affect them closing on the property? Like
No.
does. Okay.
A PPP loan will not. If they got a mortgage from, say, the SBA,
Okay,
Small
right.
Business Administration, that will definitely show up. But a PPP loan will not show up.
So let's say for the SPA, does that need to be all clear and they need to show you, or they have to sign an affidavit?
If it's an SBA loan, we have to pay it off at closing. And then we get to cancel the record. It has to be paid. What they normally do, Simon, on an SBA loan, if the seller is buying a new house, they will transfer that mortgage from the existing home to the new home if they don't want to pay it off. They cancel ours, but they'll put the lien on a different piece of property. That's what happens. Very time consuming.
We have a question on one of the chats saying that if the buyer decide not to do a survey done prior to closing on a home, and then if they do a survey after their purchase, do they have any protection? Probably not, right? At that point, it's already done.
They do not. If they come to me and they say to me, we're going to get a survey afterwards, I'll tell them, I'll insure the survey afterwards, but it will be subject to all the encroachments that are on it. So it's really no protection for them. You got to do it before the closing. It's very important to do that before the closing.
And the survey is only good for 10 years? Is that what most of the time?
10 years. Most of the people say surveys are good for 10 years, and people will give a survey affidavit. A survey affidavit, all that does is opens up a lawsuit in the future, because the surveyor will not help you because the survey is not certified to the buyer. I strongly recommend do not use old surveys. You can go back to the same surveyor, get him to recertify it to the new buyer. He'll give you a discount on the survey, but then at least the survey is certified to your buyer. That's what you want. You want that certification because you want that protection, because if he made a mistake, then you can go back to him. You can go back to him, you can come back to me, and we have to clear up the problem.
And then let's talk about the cost factors. So there's a title search cost factor, and then you have to get title insurance, right? So let's say on an average home, that's cost between $800,000 to $1.5 million. What would be those costs be?
Tony, hold on one second, Simon. I will get that.
Yeah, no
Tony's
problem.
I have Tony over here. He's going to.
I can see that. Yes. Yes.
He's going to do it right now. So in today's market, Simon, so all your listeners know, title insurance is a regulated industry.
Okay.
So we all charge the same amount. It's based on the purchase price. The only prices that could change a little bit are sometimes the out-of-pocket cost for the titles. Some title searches cost $100, some cost $150. It all depends how difficult the search is. Depends on how many names you have to run in Superior Court for the judgments. If the people want a flood search, which I always recommend getting if the bank isn't going to do a flood search. So those costs average anywhere around maybe about $500 to $550 in that area for the search cost. And then the new fee that all the buyers have now, because the attorneys don't do the settlement and we do the settlement, is a $525 charge settlement fee for us to get the payoff letters, get the CD prepared, the preliminary CD, the final CD. We do all the dealings with the lender to make sure that when you come to closing, everything is done, goes very smooth, and you don't have any issues. The attorneys are basically reviewing the contract, helping out with inspection issues, and sales attorneys, they don't come to the closing anymore. They overnight us the documents. So we have that. And some buyers' attorneys come, some buyers' attorneys still don't come because of COVID. But a lot of our guys who don't come will get on a Zoom call at the closing. If their clients have any questions, they're there to help them. So it's very good teamwork, that we all have, and we try to get it done. And if people are very uncomfortable, we'll close in their car. They stay in the car. We'll pass the papers back and forth. But we're pretty much good. We have all plexiglass on our conference rooms. So we're pretty good with keeping everybody safe. And we take everyone's temperature. So we do what we have to do to keep everybody safe. The one thing I wanted to talk to all your buyers about, Simon, is something very, very important. Oh, yeah. You got the quote?
I just did it for the premiums.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. So on an $800,000 purchase, the premium amount in addition to the searches would be $3,050. And then on a $1.5 million purchase, that premium would go up to $4,975.
Okay,
Thank you,
that's
Tony.
good to know. So,
And Simon, tell all your buyers and your agents, they can contact myself, my son, Tony. If they need a quote, he'll do a quote for you immediately. He'll email it to you. That way you have it in writing and everybody will be fine. They'll know exactly what it is. There's no fooling around with the numbers or anything like that. Everyone knows exactly what's going on.
Tony,
I love giving quotes. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, Tony, if you wouldn't mind putting in the chat the email address. This way we could reach out to you for quotes if you're okay
Yes,
with that.
I'll
Thank
put
you
all
for
the
that.
contact info in.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And if you need any title searching done or flood searches done, you could email myself, email Tony. We'll get them done for you right away.
and Tony, tell them a little bit about your company, how long you guys been in business, and you know how reliable you guys are.
I'm sorry, Simon, what was the question? I apologize.
I say the question was like, just talk about how long you guys been in business and, how reliable you guys are, how, that, because I always try to recommend you guys to attorney because we don't actually pick the title company as the attorney choice, from what I understand. And does the buyer have a choice to ask the attorney, say, hey, this is the title company they don't want to work with?
Oh, yes, of course. Quite often I'm dealing with the buyers. Can you mute yours?
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Quite often I'm dealing with the buyers. They'll tell me that I just placed an offer on a house. I'm looking for a title company. I run the numbers for them. If everything looks good, they'll put me in touch with their attorney and we'll go from there. A little bit about Acres. I mean, my dad's been doing this since 1978. My brother's been doing this since 2003. I've been doing this since 2013. So we've been here for a long time. We don't have any plans to go elsewhere. But on top of that, our turnaround times, I believe it's 3 to 5 days right now. All our closers are licensed attorneys in the state of New Jersey. So you have that comfort level knowing that whoever's touching your file is going to be professional from start to finish. And I'm always available. My father's always available. My brother's always available. So you always have support if you use Acres.
That sounds great. I do have another question. So, during COVID, I understand it takes certain county longer time to do the search. Are you still seeing it's a 5 days turnaround time, or you think it's longer, some of the county?
No, we're okay now. The counties are open. We can do all our searches. It's not an issue anymore. Finally, not an issue anymore.
Excellent.
But Simon, the one thing I wanted to tell all your listeners to be very, very careful about one thing. Cybercrime in title insurance is out of control. So please let all your buyers know that no one will ever contact them from our office, your office, telling them to wire funds to a specific place. Because once you do something like that, that wire really is coming from some sort of a hacker, and you will lose that deposit and you will not get that back. So my suggestion to every agent is to have that conversation with your buyers, because you do not want them to lose their deposit monies, because it takes a long time to save up for these deposit monies. You don't want to see someone steal them. And in our industry, it is a nightmare what's going on right now. We have to be so careful with wiring of funds, and we'll never wire funds overseas. But it's out there. So be very, very careful. Educate your buyer, make sure he knows no one will contact him to wire money. I'll give you one horror story that happened down in Monmouth County. I just gave a whole seminar on cyber and wire fraud. I leave the office. I get a call the very next day from an agent. Peter, you're not going to believe this. I said, what's the matter? She says, this just happened to me. She says, but you were not the title company. They used a different title company. And my buyer wired $175,000 to some hacker. It's gone and nobody checked. And now my people who moved in yesterday to the house, the seller is forcing them to move out of the house now. It was a nightmare. It was all over, I think was it Channel 7 News, Tone? It was all over Channel 7 News. And finally, after a few months, the attorney who made the mistake and the title company who made the mistake finally ponied up the money so these people could move back in the house and get their deal closed. So please, never wire money, especially off an email. Never do it. Always call the place, and don't call the place that the phone number is on that email. Go to Google, do a search of the title company, find their correct phone number before you wire any funds. And these emails normally come 2 to 3 days prior to a closing, where they know you're rushing, you're emotional, you want to get this deal closed. Oh, I better get that money into these people. They need it. Don't trust it. And most of these emails, the one good thing you could see about these emails, most of these hackers have very poor English. So if you see something misspelled, you know, it's coming from a hacker. So always check, either call the title company, call your attorney, call your agent, speak to them directly before you press that button to have somebody wire your money that you worked very hard for. That's my best piece of advice for you, Simon.
Thank you, Peter. Anyone else have any questions for Peter or Tony?
Actually, I wanted to ask a follow-up question for the survey.
Sure.
So at this point that they purchased a house, they would get a survey, and if there's an indication that, you know, their property is actually bigger than what it is now, it would be like a lawsuit type of, like a court case type of matter at that point?
Most likely, if you can't work it out with it. So say your property is encroaching onto, say you have a fence that's encroaching onto another person's property. The first thing we do, we try to work it out with the next door neighbor. If that doesn't work, and most of the time it doesn't, you get into a lawsuit about moving a fence, moving a wall. If there's gores or gaps, where that's the case where either your property got a little bit bigger or got a little bit smaller, then you're going to have to get the people involved and do a boundary line agreement to make sure you can set that property line the proper way. All of this stuff takes a lot of time to do. The only time it's easy is if both parties are agreeable to doing it. And unfortunately today, that doesn't happen too often. Usually you have one party that's nice and one party that's not so nice. And then you have an issue.
And a second question, you had, if I understood you correctly, your suggestion is to do a title search on rental properties as well. I mean, now we're dealing with a lot of renters. So if we do have someone that's interested in the lease and we submit an offer, at what point would you suggest to ask you for that title search?
Immediately. You want
Once
to do
it's
it
accepted?
you want to do it before they sign anything. Because the last thing you want is your person leasing this property from a landlord who's about to be foreclosed on. You want to make sure, I'm sorry?
Sorry, go ahead, Peter, finish, sorry.
Yeah, you just want to make sure that the property is free and clear of liens, or if he has a mortgage, he's current on his mortgage. Because, you know, before everyone worried about the tenant, is he able to pay the rent, this and that. But in this day and age, you have to also protect the tenant to make sure that that landlord is not going belly up or not being foreclosed on, or is not in bankruptcy. Those are all important things because you want to protect your person who's renting, because you want to do the best job possible for him, because that person who's renting 2 years 2 years down the line, he may be a buyer coming back to you, so that you could sell him a house. Follow me?
And what would that cost the tenant, that title search?
As long as it's coming through Simon Kwong's team, it does not cost them anything.
Okay.
Appreciate that, Peter.
And how long would that search take for that? Because sometimes we got to get those leases signed quickly.
The most it should take is 2 days.
Okay.
But if you call, here's the whole thing. If you call myself, you call my son Tony, and you tell me that you need to get this done in 2 days, we just call our searcher and say, stop what you're doing, do this for us right now, and we'll get this done. So whatever you people need, we will do for you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Peter,
Thank
just
you very much.
thank you so much. One quick question. I'm a newer agent, just to understand that, and I know at the Keller Williams team meeting also, you offered to help us out. So thank you so much again. So title search is for you when you're suggesting that all our clients, we should encourage them to do a survey before they put in a bid. Is that what the correct understanding
not a survey, not a survey. The
Okay.
title
Just a
survey,
title
we can do a
search,
little
okay.
survey. We do a little bit later because we
Okay,
want to
and
make
how
sure the
long?
deal's going to go.
Yeah.
They normally will do a survey once they know they have a firm mortgage commitment. If
Okay.
it's a cash deal, we could order the survey immediately.
Okay.
And
And
if it's a
the approximate.
and if it's a condominium, you don't need to do a survey at all. However, if it's a townhouse where you're buying into a planned unit development, okay, that's not a condo. So down those cases, you should buy a survey as well, because then you own that lot that townhouse is sitting on. Okay.
Got it. Got it. Thank you so much.
And if you have any questions about what we talked about here, Tony will put my office number and my cell number. You guys can call me anytime, 7 days a week. I'm more than happy to answer your questions because there's a lot of questions out there and I know that. Okay.
Thank
Well,
you.
yes, definitely. Thank you so much, Peter and Tony. And the email, just so you guys have it, is tony@acrestitle.com and peters@acrestitle.com.
That's
And
correct.
if you guys need the phone number, we can definitely able to share that with you. You can give us a call as well at 973-489-8885. That's the number. Or you can email us at info@swkrealestate.com. Peter, this was so informative. Really appreciate your time. And you guys are so knowledgeable. We're definitely making sure that all our clients, obtain you guys as the title companies for service where possible.
And let them know if they have any questions, they can call us anytime.
Thank you so much.
All right,
Yeah.
Simon, have a great weekend.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.